So the reason I'm making this video is because I know that you guys are feeling squeezed every single day for every dime and dollar that you have. If the government could have their way, and I've said this before, they would tax you and have you buy every type of license for absolutely everything until you have absolutely nothing left. Oh wait, a lot of you guys are already basically feeling that pressure. You know, the gas prices are going up with this stupid war that's going on. And, you know, I can't get into too many political things because if I, talk about certain issues, then they've said it themselves. They are suppressing people who talk out against them. You know, if for those who know, Plant Daddy expresses America first. And we're not going to be supporting no foreign nations here. But basically, this video is going to be talking about why plants are so darn expensive. So basically, there's a couple different ways to buy in wholesale. I propagate, I divide myself, I get my plants however way I can possibly get them here at Plant Daddy Express. Like I said, I got a ton of bins, I propagate a bunch of stuff, and I buy in from other backyard nursery people. I order online, I pick up plants in person. You know, I've even sold plants that I've gotten from out in the woods, like Sedum tornatum, a wild woodland sedum that I've gotten out there, and I've gotten plants from family members, and I got a tree back here in the front yard that I dug up from beside a dumpster at my grandma's house the one time. Like, I do what it takes. I've sold plants that I dug up that self-seeded in my mound. You know, I had 4 or 5 customers here, and I dug up a couple different things for them because they want them. I don't care. My customers here, I had a woman who picked out some plants. I had a customer here who picked out some plants. The total was going to be 80 bucks. And I told her the price. I said it was going to be 80 bucks. You know, I might have even rounded down because, I see the prices that you guys have to pay here, to keep me afloat somewhat. And I'm like, well, dang, that is ridiculous. I'm walking around, and why is there an empty pot? Something ate that. That's another $2 gone. But then if I sold that plant, it would be $7. I'm telling you guys, absolutely everything goes against you if you have a plant business. So that's why I'm making this video, and I want you guys to, to see what I have to try and deal with. And this business is not very easy. And when you guys see a plant that's priced at 20 bucks, this video, hopefully will be a little bit more eye-opening and show you guys like why I have to sell some of the plants at the prices that I'm selling them at. So basically, like I don't know if I said this already, but if I buy in plants the first wholesale way, I have to buy in the 72 of those. Each tray of 72 is going to be 150 bucks, absolutely bare minimum. If you're buying in a tray, or if you're buying in a couple trays, they put them like 2 trays to a dang pot. What am I saying? 2 trays to a box, not pot. 2 trays to a box, and then the box is going to be like 30 bucks just to ship. And then if I go and pick up from another place, they're adding a random fuel surcharge because of the stupid war that's going on. Are you kidding me? I'm picking up the plants and I'm picking them out my darn self, and you guys are charging an extra 2.5% just for me to buy from you. Like, are you kidding me? And then you're adding another tax, and then I have to charge tax, and then it's like, what the heck? And I'm not just learning about life. I'm saying like bro, this stuff is getting worse. They're wanting to control you guys and everyone, and you guys, and I am getting squeezed for every dollar that I have. And then I got a whole bunch of other things. I got deer and rabbits going against me. I got the weather going against me. And yes, I am complaining a little bit, but like I said, talking about the numbers, I propagate myself. But then if I buy in wholesale, the second way I buy in wholesale is I basically buy in plants that are ready to sell right off the bat. So I bought in, some of these yarrows here. Some of them I picked up, some of them I had delivered here, but regardless, I had to know You know that the Firefly Peach Sky Yarrow, I've tested out those on my mound. I have to know that those things are going to get 2.5 foot tall potentially, you know, 2 to 2.5 foot wide. I have to know when they bloom because people are going to ask me these questions. I got to know that they're going to survive, or maybe that's not the best choice for your shady or full sun situation. If they need part shade, if they should be planted next to the same variety, or what, you know, people have got every single question that you can have, like, possibly imagine, you know. But like these plants right here, I bought in these Firefly Peach Sky Yarrows. Hopefully you guys see them, and check that out. That was $9. That was $9, $9, $9, $9. Those are $9. Now I'm gonna have to be like, okay, well, $5. I'm at the only recoup half my money because a dang rabbit came over here the past 5 nights, kept eating them. I sprinkled cayenne pepper on these things, and then they still were eating the plant, I'm pretty darn sure. So yes, I just lost 70 or 80 bucks on one type of plant. Other plants that I don't sell because I'm not gonna hope, you know, I'm not gonna 100% recoup all my money that I, you know, spend. I'm not gonna sell every single plant that I have. I absolutely never sell out of everything. Like, that would be ridiculous. I sell like a quarter, a third, maybe even a half of the plants that I have here every spring because I sell perennials. They should survive, but that doesn't mean they're going to survive. Every year I throw hundreds of plants in a pile, and then I continuously have more and more plants that I find that are dead or basically just need tossed, that I have to basically make new ones of. So propagating and growing a lot of plants myself helps a heck of a lot when I'm trying to make and save some money. But like I said, the wholesale price, if you buy in plants that are ready to sell right off the bat, like these penstemons here, one of the suppliers that I have has penstemons they're supposedly a wholesale supplier, but they've got penstemons that are $11 a piece. You have to buy a minimum of 6 to a tray to reach those, but then you have to spend thousands of dollars just to buy a single order from them. They also charge an 11% fuel surcharge, which, you know, might be going up because of the war and the gas prices that are ridiculous. So basically that $11 plant is actually like $11.50 or $12 a piece. What would you guys charge as a plant business owner, a nursery owner like I am, who's buying a plant for $11.50 a piece? What are you going to charge? Are you going to only charge $14? Are you going to make $2 on a single plant? That's not enough to put $2 in your gas tank to get, you know, half a mile up the road these days. Like, you're going to have to double the price. You're going to have to almost, like, for a $12 plant, basically, you should be selling that thing for 24 bucks. No one's going to be spending 24 bucks on that plant. I got those plants over there for they're 14 bucks. I actually bought that variety from a different supplier because I knew my numbers. They're 14 bucks here at Plant Daddy Express. If I was to buy from one place, they'd be $11. You know, some things I look at the numbers from one place versus another, and I'm looking at that. If you go to Hook's Greenhouse, if you go to Pandy's Garden Center, if you go to all these other places, guess what the prices they're going to charge? They're going to charge way the heck more than I'm charging, most likely. They've got the greenhouses, they've got the shade space, they've got the workers, they've got the ability to buy the sprays. They don't have deer, I'm sure, at their garden centers that are, you know, in the city or whatnot with greenhouses around them. They don't have probably the same wind inside their structures that I have to deal with, because half the time you got a darn tornado ripping through this place. So basically the average price to buy in plants wholesale, average price is $9 for the one company. That means that for every plant that you buy, you're on average spending $9 a plant to buy in, to hopefully maybe double the price. That means that I have to charge 18 bucks on average per plant. 18 bucks. I had to get a job over the winter, and I was not making no 18 bucks an hour. especially with taxes getting taken out. I was making like 14 bucks an hour. You guys are not, I mean, half my customers are probably, some of my customers, they probably don't, they might not be making the money themselves. Maybe they're having husbands support themselves, or maybe you guys are retired. A lot of my customers are retired and they get, their checks. They have a very limited income. Some of my customers, I got to also realize that they definitely make a lot more money than I do, but I'm in the country and most of my customers are everyday average people who are basically living paycheck to paycheck, who probably don't have the most glamorous jobs, and you can't afford to spend no 20 bucks per plant. And if you do buy that many plants, you can only buy a couple. Like I said, this one woman, she picked out like 8 plants. And then if you're paying with the card, you've got sales tax. You got an extra plant or 2 or 3 or 4 plants worth of plants just in the sales tax. And that basically means that, oh crap, I'm gonna have to set this plant back, and then what's my total? Or can you do a little bit less? I have to give absolutely everyone just about. I feel like I give everyone a discount. I give people free plants. Guys, I just had half of my yarrows of the one variety get destroyed by the rabbits. I just lost 60 bucks. Was it due to my own ignorance? If I spend hundreds of dollars on these apple trees and then they get ate every other day, every other night by something until they're completely nothing and dead, is that my fault? I probably should be putting a fence around them, but it's like, bro, I buy in plants from a bunch of different places. These right here are the pink willows. And you have to like, this is a backyard nursery who should be trusted or whatnot. It's an average individual just like I am, but it's like, these are magnolias right here and magnolias. I get these plants from a bunch of different places, and then the source right here doesn't send 2 of the things that they should have sent, that they charged me for. And I didn't realize that they didn't send me 2 things, and I said, oh, you didn't send me both of these. And then they send me plants with terrible root systems, and I'm spending like 7 or 8 bucks a plant for them. So then maybe I can double the price on those things. And it's like, for me to propagate a plant, it has to not be patented. It has to be, I have to have the plant here, first of all. So in order for me to propagate, or split up a bee balm, it has to not be patented. And I have to have that plant here. I have to have the bush here. If I have a hydrangea, I have to have a plant here. I have to know the variety. And then I have to plant the cuttings and stuff. And then I have to grow that cutting out for 2, 3, 4 years before it's ready to sell. I've got the wind, the rain, every dang thing going against me here. And I'm sorry that you guys have to come here and spend that type of money. So like I said, the cheapest wholesale plant to buy in is basically $6.50. So $7 a piece when it's said and done for the very cheapest plant. I'm not doubling everything like I keep saying. So basically the cheapest plant that I buy in to sell should be 14 bucks. But a lot of my plants I charge 12, 13, 14 bucks a piece, because no one's going to buy a plant that's 20 bucks. My hostas, those to buy in, I'm just going to say it, the average is 10 bucks a piece. What would you charge for a plant that's 10 bucks a piece, that you only have so many customers coming here? So you've got to make that money. I got to, I'm only doubling the price, and some things I'm less than doubling. And, I'm growing what I can. I have goals to one day, breed my own varieties. I have goals to do that with multiple plants. I want to graft plants. I want to have a greenhouse myself. And now it's like every single year you've got more and more competition, because everyone wants to make an extra couple dollars, and everyone wants to have their own backyard business like I have. So the next thing you know, you've got every small town has got a new greenhouse going up, and it's like, bro, you just started and you've got your own greenhouse. I've been growing plants for years now. I can't afford a greenhouse. I got the space, but it's like, you don't need anything big, anything fancy, but I kind of don't want to start with a piece of crap that's going to end up in the neighbor's yard. I'm sorry. And some of the, even the cheaper ones that are only a few $100s. A few $100, I was down to my last couple dollar bills when I put in my last plant order. And then now I got people, I'm trying to work with people and tell people, yeah, I can get that plant potentially next week. But then it's like, I have to make the money back, sell these plants, so then I can buy some more plants to only make 25% on each plant. The plants that I propagated and grew myself that are not patented, a lot of times they're the plants that don't come with fancy picture tags that I have to probably make bench cards for, like these crazy daisies. And if I grew them myself, then they're probably going to be later to pop up. They're not going to be as fancy as some of these proven winners varieties. And let's talk about some perennial shrubs, this perennial shrub order. You know, I don't know if anyone's going to be watching this, but like, over here, I've got some Bobo hydrangeas. I wanted to get some Firelight Tidbit hydrangeas, but check this out. These are Bobo hydrangeas, one of the shortest plants, one of the shortest hydrangeas. Firelight Tidbit is another really nice pink variety of hydrangea. It's a panicle hydrangea. To buy the Bobos, to buy the Firelight Tidbits, the price is $24.50. Plus that 3.5 or 2.5% fuel surcharge, plus the $30 it takes to go and pick up the plants, plus the trailer fees, because they want to charge you $80 or $60 just to buy a sticker to be able to use your trailer. I'm telling you guys, I got I got a bunch of things, and then to buy us the sales tax license, the vendor's license, $125. To run my my card reader, it's like another 30 or 40 something bucks a month. I'm getting squeezed, getting kind of controlled here. They make it to where the small guy who's trying to make a living is like, if I talk out against a certain people, I don't know if I said this, and I keep on repeating the same things. They are saying that if I'm talking out against, certain things that I don't agree with, or certain people that I don't agree with, even if I'm not being, a terrible person or whatnot, racist, or, if I'm opposed to what they're doing, up at the top, they will label me some weird word. And next thing you know, they are not going to, like with the AI and stuff, and they're keeping an eye on everyone. If I talk out against certain things, they are not going to push my content. They're not going to push my stuff. And do you think I get that many views already? I only get a couple dozen views, which, that's a lot sometimes, So, okay, back to the perennial shrub order. So I am spending $3,000 on a perennial shrub order. $3,000 on 330 plants. The plants, their listed price is $4.50 on average. $4.50 on average, but then once I get the plants here, my actual price per plant ends up being close to $9.50. Why does the price more than double? Why does the price double? Because they force you to buy their tag. They force you to buy their pot. That's like an extra $1.50. $1.50 goes to a royalty fee. So basically on a $3,000 order, $500 goes straight to royalty fees. You're getting absolutely nothing physical in return other than the fact that it's a new plant. Royalties are a good thing. Royalties are a good thing because it incentivizes plant breeders to make new varieties that never existed before. If you want a blue rose, if you want a blue daylily, if you want something crazy, royalty fees basically make it to where you're going to have the wiggles and the wiggly and squiggly and cool colored hostas and everything else. Some of these things, they'll continue, the plant breeders will continue to breed new plants regardless, because it's people's hobbies, but they're financially incentivized to grow plants because of royalties. So anyways, back to the thing. $3,000 plant order, $1,500 is the actual plants. The $500 goes to royalty fees. And basically you're spending, you know, to boil it all down, you're spending $10 a plant. That's to get a little plug that you have to grow out for at least a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even 3 years, depending on the plant. Do you think that everything's going to survive? No, everything's not going to survive. And that means that basically every one of those plants, you add $1 or $2 to each one of those. You add $1 or $2 to each plant. So the next thing you know, that $10 turns into $13 because the potting mix that I have to buy, you know, if you're planting these 1-gallon spruces, you're not spending $1 per plant yet. But if you are planting 3-gallon pots, you're spending at least probably $1 per each of those pots, you know, because I spent hundreds of dollars to get my compost pile here, my potting mix pile, which still probably isn't ideal, especially if you're planting plants that take years to grow out. You're definitely not guaranteed to sell all of the plants that you have here, you know. And then I'm gonna probably want to plant a couple of those plants myself. So you got $13 into a perennial shrub that it takes you multiple years. You got to weed that plant every, you know, at least every month or so. You've got to go through, you got to trim the roots because they're going to root in your fabric. You got to pay for the fabric. You got to pay for the water. I'm getting supported by my dad still with all of my bills. You know, I'm only 22 years old, but here soon it's like time is flying by, and I don't want to be 30 years old without my own property, without, you know, my own greenhouse and, you know, parking area. You know, I know that I don't need like all these things, and like I don't need a dang Tesla truck or whatnot, but I do want something that's maybe a little bit newer or maybe better quality that can haul more than 1 ton of material in my trailer at a time. This truck was $2,000 cash, and it's definitely been a really nice truck. But I cannot, you know, afford even payments on a vehicle right now. I have got a lot of plants here. I get them a bunch of different ways. Wholesale plug trays, you can only afford so many of those. If you buy in ready to sell, you've got things eating them. Those plants are not guaranteed to sell. The average price is $9. So then you got to sell these plants for at least 15 to 20 to 25 bucks. Some of the plants are 14 bucks for a 1-gallon plant. If you guys look at some of the bigger garden centers that are online for a 1-gallon plant, I've seen alliums being sold for like 50 or 60 bucks, which is absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life, just about. And I've seen crazy things. That's a lie. I've seen some ridiculous crap, but like 50 bucks for a 1-gallon plant, I don't care if it's gonna bloom from spring to fall. 60 bucks better get you something that's gonna last for until you die, because like my plants are still gonna be 14, 15 bucks on average for a 1-gallon. You know, I want to be the place to go for perennial plants. I've tried making this video multiple times, so that's why it's not the best. There's not going to be any editing. You know, I'm hoping that someone watches this video and they're like, what? You spend that much money on those plants? I thought that you bought them for a couple bucks and you're selling them from that much. And, you know, one of my worst fears is people coming here and being like, you're charging that much gosh darn money? Are you kidding me? And the next thing you know, I'm sleeping in the house, or who knows, maybe I'm just not here. I'm not here, basically outside. It's the middle of the night and someone's like, well, Hunter's ripping people off selling plants for 20 bucks. I'm only making a couple bucks off of those plants. Clearly, I am not able to, like, you know, I'm not flourishing here when I'm selling plants. I feel like I'm making way more money and I'm way more happier than I am working like almost a minimum wage job. You know, like, you know, if I was working at a factory or whatnot, they're charging, you know, they're paying 15 or 16 bucks right now. You know, while the peak sales season is going on, I'm taking in thousands of dollars, but the last 2 years, I've spent more money than I've made. Some of that was dumb decisions. Some of that was very bad investments, but for the most part, half of that for sure were plants that I needed to have to be able to have a business that was somewhat successful. If you guys support me, if you guys support Plant Daddy Express, if you share my posts, if you come here, if you're a customer, if you buy a single plant, or if you don't buy a single plant and you like the single one of my posts, if you read my posts, you guys have supported me. I thank you guys for that, because I've got a lot of things going against me. I got to charge what I think is reasonable and what people might be willing to pay. I understand that the prices that I am selling some of these plants for, if I was in your guys' shoes, some of these plants I wouldn't buy. You can definitely go to Walmart or Home Depot and maybe even buy some of the same varieties that I have, potentially for even cheaper. Those places, they're not even like, they're probably taking almost losses on some things. They're like, well, a couple bucks on each item's fine. For me, a couple bucks is not gonna cut it. Like, I gotta make, I gotta make $5, $6, $10 per item, because like I'm gonna have bills that I have to pay, because I can't rely on someone else to pay my bills forever. And I'm trying my best to build the business. Right now, I feel like I've got some things that other places don't have. Like I said, I don't think that Hook's Greenhouse or some of these other places are going to watch this video. But like, you go there, you go to a lot of these garden centers, all they do is they buy in two different ways that I do. They buy in plug trays. They buy in ready to sell plants. I propagate, I divide, I split up, I buy from a whole bunch of different sources. I'm trying my best to have the best hosta selection. But here you've got more experience. You've got all these different landscaped mounds behind me. You've got years of experience from when I was, 13 years old on. You've got someone who reads articles, who reads Facebook posts, whose life is researching plants. I can't see myself doing something else other than plants. I've got a lot of plants here. I'm growing out plants, and as I continue to get more customers, then the ability to sell out and to sell more plants, or maybe at a cheaper cost, to have better sources than what I have now, is, to have sources where when I receive plants, they're not going to be twigs with a couple roots, and they're still going to be $5 or $10 a piece. Like, I bought some blueberries that were $10 a piece. Them things weren't hardly sellable. And I told people, hey, I'm getting blueberries. I think they're going to be $20 because I'm spending $10 a piece. $10 a piece on a bare root plant that I've got to spend at least 50 cents to $1 on the pot, the potting mix, the fertilizer, and some other things. The time and energy it takes to buy those plants, the taxes, the shipping costs, makes that $10 plant $11 or $12 a piece. And then next thing you know, it's like, well, I can only sell that thing for $15 because $20 is way too much. You go to Tractor Supply, they've got apple trees, they got blueberry plants. The same price I'm charging for, and they're almost better. I might be complaining way too darn much, but I'm trying to hopefully tell you guys some prices. When I made the other video clips, I was way more heavy into telling you the prices of the wholesale plants. Like I said, when you're buying wholesale trays, you can only get so many varieties. When you're propagating and dividing yourself, if I have a couple plants and I divide those plants, I've got to sell them. So if I divide a plant up and I get 20 plants, next thing you know, I go and sell 15 of those plants and I got 5 left. The next thing you know, in my situation, my luck, I'll have 2 or 3 of those plants die. I'm left with 2 of those plants, and then they're smaller than the big one that I had. And it's like, bro, I can't, a lot of these plants, it's like I could mass produce enough spireas or Weigelias or whatever the case may be of some of the non-patented plants. I could propagate a couple of those in just a couple years, and I could fill my backyard up 100%. I could quadruple the sales area and mass produce the crap out of certain plants. But you've got to have customers, and you've got to sell to those customers. You got to have enough selling skills and knowledge to be able to sell those plants. Like, I can't mass produce plants and like know that I'm gonna sell them. I did a sale basically last year for the first time ever, and I'm like, you know what, 30 or 45% off, I don't know. And then like the math was kind of terrible. I'm not the best at math, but like, you know, then I was able to sell the last remaining bee balms and some of the other plants that I had left. But it's like, if I do any type of discounts, then I'm barely recouping the money that I'm selling the plants at. You know, if I buy a plant for $9, I'm trying to sell it for 15 bucks. I sell a couple of those, and then next thing you know, it's like, well, I didn't sell any of those, and then I go and have a sale. It's like, you know, you got to recoup the money, but it's like, even if I do recoup the money, it's like, well, I'm not even turning a profit on those plants, you know, and I'm not turning a profit on a bunch of things. I know I sound like I'm complaining, but like, I am a little bit, but I'm also telling you guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that gas prices are the way they are. I'm sorry that I've got to charge the prices that I've got to charge. I'm sorry that plants are ridiculous. When you buy 5 plants, you're looking at $100 bill. When you buy 10 plants, you're looking at, you know, 250 bucks. You can't landscape your whole darn house for, you know, less than 500 bucks. People bring cash with them expecting to spend, you know, hopefully a little bit less than that and get some change back. And the next thing you know, they're doing cash sale, and they're like, okay, do you have a card reader or whatnot? So then I do a cash sale, a card sale, and it's like the same purchase because they didn't bring enough money. And it's not because they're impulse buying, it's because plants are more expensive than they thought that they would be, you know. And I'm not very old, and you know, when I went to the garden centers back when I was younger, some of the prices weren't even that low compared to what they were now. Like the prices have skyrocketed a little bit, but it's like, you know, I just feel terrible about charging too much per plant. And I should be charging more than what I'm charging, but I won't be able to sell the plants that I'm trying to sell. If I do, you know, make the prices high enough to where it's like at the end of the year, then I'm like, okay, I got a little bit left over. I can maybe pay myself a little bit, because 2 years ago I paid myself. Last year I was unable to pay myself. This year, I don't know. This year I don't see myself hardly paying myself. I'm going into my own savings to basically fund all my business things, because I'm trying my best to spend every dollar I have, because if the dollar is getting devalued, then I have to basically invest it into plants, because plants are going to basically, hopefully, you know, those things should appreciate in value. They should rise. If I spend $2 on a plant that's a baby that I can hopefully sell for that 15 bucks eventually, and then I'm making money, then I'm going to try my best to invest everything. But if the economy is going to go to crap, and if people aren't going to have the money to buy my plants, then it's like, well, I could be spending all of my money, and it could be like not worth it in the end, but I've got to do it. A whole bunch of thoughts are going into this video, and I might rewatch this video, and I might post it, I might not. Hopefully the quality is better than some of my other videos. I don't know what the issue is with my last video that I posted. It is absolutely blurry. I don't know. I'm going to hopefully be able to upload a file instead of just the video, because it's ridiculous, the quality of that. But all right, guys, Plant Daddy Express. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. If you guys have supported me, plants are what I want to do. Sometimes I get a little bit negative, a little bit pessimistic, and that probably just takes away from the time and stuff that I should be spending working hard, improving, putting cages around plants, spraying plants with different stuff, and growing more plants. I have the ability to change, to grow, to morph myself into more of a successful business. I have gained experience gain customers, gain knowledge, and I'm hoping to set myself up for success in these next few years. But I've also felt like I said that a few years ago as well. I appreciate the support. I will continue to have these types of conversations with my customers, you know, but it is difficult sometimes. This is Hunter from Plant Daddy Express. Thanks for watching, guys.